How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. I hope you enjoyed the nice weather this weekend in addition to playing some video games like I did. My wife and I spent the weekend tearing out bricks from our paved driveway, and we built this cool retaining wall in the backyard, which was fun, but I also got some game time in. I went back to Destiny 2. I missed Season of the Wish, which is what the current one is called, so I got into that. I tried out Into the Light. If you're a lapsed Destiny player, you should definitely give that free expansion a shot. It's like a horde mode, and you can finally unlock the super black shader. And right when I was going to go to bed last night, my friend Dustin, who's one of the co-hosts of the Sacred Symbols PlayStation podcast, which is my favorite PlayStation podcast, he texted me that he's downloading Fallout 76. I know it's a Microsoft game now, but I have over 100 hours in that game. I am like a diehard fan. I can just see past the jank, and I was really excited to check it out. It is so much better than when the Wastelanders expansion came out, which is the last time I played. There used to be this like 1 second delay when you would shoot between the bullet actually coming out of the gun and connecting. That is fixed. We had a full server playing the new Mothman event, which was actually like functional and good. And I'm really excited to check out the new free Atlantic City expansion area. If you've never played it before, it's always on sale for like $5. I highly recommend checking it out if you're into the show and you like Fallout 4, because it actually is more fun to play than Fallout 4 in some ways. In today's video, I've got 3 great topics for you guys. First off, I'm going to tell you how to get Rise of the Ronin completely for free, like no joke, no clickbait, anything like that. Second up, we got a lot of new info about the PlayStation 5 Pro that I'm excited to talk about. And then finally, I picked out some games from the PlayStation Spring Sale, which is running through April 24th, so you've got plenty of time to pick up some cheap games. Let's talk about how to get Rise of the Ronin completely for free from Sony. So I talked about a couple weeks ago how I discovered PlayStation Stars gives you the ability to spend points you earn from purchasing games and completing campaigns on PlayStation Store credit, but there are also free games that you can get with your points, and you need a lot of points, but it's not unobtainable in any way. There's actually quite a few games that you can grab for points right now, Rise of the Ronin being one of them, which is crazy because that game literally just came out. That one's definitely the most expensive at 17,500 points. I think when I checked it for the first time, having never engaged with the app, so all of the points I had were from buying games on the PlayStation Store, I had around like 20,000 points, and I just dumped them all into PlayStation Store credit. I already have Rise of the Ronin 2, so it's not really that big of a deal, but if you've never checked PlayStation Stars, like you signed up for it when it came out and you never went back, go check if you have enough points, because it's not that hard to amass like 20,000 points, which is more than you need to get Rise of the Ronin. One of the biggest games that Sony's put out this year, Helldivers 2, and honestly my game of the year so far, is 10,000 points, which is 7,000 points less than Rise of the Ronin. So if you missed that game, like you weren't willing to spend $40 on it, and you've never checked your PS Stars app after signing up, I would guess that you probably have close to or over 10,000 points. That is well worth grabbing for free. That's like endless content. And then finally, Balatro, which is like a new indie game that is like a spin on poker, I guess. It's a roguelite. My friend Dustin, again, is like all over this game, and my friend Rich from Fan the Deck, he's in love with this game as well. That one's the cheapest at 3,750 points, and that's like one of the biggest games right now in the indie scene. So if you wanted to check it out, but you didn't want to spend some money on it, you probably have a little bit under 4,000 points to spare. They don't update the games that you can get through PS Stars that often, but this is a good list of games that you can get for free. Obviously, the best way to do it is buy games, so that's why I also worked in the story about some good pickups on the spring sale. If you've never checked it before, it's definitely worth taking a look for some of these games. I would recommend, if you have the points, grabbing Rise of the Ronin. The graphics aren't amazing by a wide margin compared to other Sony games, but it's really fun. I think it's a cool open world Soulsborne style game, but it's a lot easier than something like Sekiro or Elden Ring, for example. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro. So there have been a few leaks coming out lately. We've got one from Insider Gaming, who's really reliable. Eurogamer had a really big one where they talked about the specs, and Digital Foundry did a whole deep dive on that. This is less of a leak and more of just a straight up report of what Sony is saying, because The Verge was able to get the documents about the console, which is being called Trinity, that Sony is sending out to developers. So as of right now, Sony is encouraging all developers to start making sure their games will work on the PS5 Pro and actually take advantage of its features, which is great. The big focus on this thing I thought would be frame rate, but Sony is really hammering ray tracing. They're saying, hey, if you had a game that used ray tracing before, you'll probably be able to get it running at 60 FPS with ray tracing, or if you want to keep it at 30 FPS and keep ray tracing enabled, you can actually get enhanced ray tracing on this console, because they built a whole new pipeline that makes ray tracing a lot easier to do on the PS5. They're calling it the Trinity, but it's the PS5 Pro, so they're kind of dangling that carrot of PS5 Pro Enhanced as a label you can put on the box over the developers. They're saying, hey, 60 FPS is nice, better resolution is nice, but if you really want to make sure you get that badge on your box, you should include ray tracing in your games. I actually think this is cool because ray tracing tracing looks really good. Like in the games that I've experienced it in, like Spider-Man 2, it is noticeably better than the lighting that we got in Spider-Man 2018. And you kind of just see it when you're flying across the map. There's better reflections and everything like that. Path tracing in Cyberpunk 2077 is also really cool. I just never really like got excited for it because it's such a hard thing to run on PC. Like I have a 4090 equipped PC. It's really hard for me to play games with ray tracing without using DLSS at like performance if I want to get 60 FPS, and like the PS5 is a $500 console, so expecting it to like match the performance of my 4090 PC, it's not really realistic. But the PS5 Pro, despite being again like a $600 console, it seems like Sony is actually doing a lot of work on the back end to make it actually run well with ray tracing enabled. So not only are games that actually had ray tracing before going to look better and theoretically run better, games that didn't have ray tracing because it was just non-tenable for them to do that and have good performance, we could see patches for older games where they get it added in. They also confirmed that the GPU in the PS5 Pro is a lot more powerful. It's about 45 to 50% more powerful than the PS5. I think still the PS5 is CPU limited and you're only getting a 10% boost out of the PS5, but the PS5 CPU is not bad. It's just not great compared to like a high-end desktop PC. So like improving it by 10% is cool to me. I think they probably could have gone with a bigger bump, and the only reason they didn't is because components are really expensive right now. They don't want to charge $700 or $800 for this thing, so they got to be realistic with the price. And also the PS6 is on the horizon. It's only a few years away. It's targeting 2027. So if they make this thing too good, they need to make sure that there's a gap where they can say, hey, the PS6 is going to be a noticeable increase over the PS5 Pro. So it makes sense that they're only doing a 10% bump on the CPU. I personally would have liked to see more, but I'm understanding of the global conditions that are affecting them. Like I'd rather pay $600 for this console instead of $700 or $800 at the end of the day, because if I want to get high-end CPU power, I've got a PC sitting on my desk right there that I can take advantage of that with. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but developers are officially able to order test kits. I would expect a lot of the third-party developers out there and developers who have games out that don't run at 60, like Lords of the Fallen or Final Fantasy 16, even Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. It does run at 60 FPS, but you take a pretty big graphical hit to run it at that locked 60 FPS. I'm assuming that Square Enix would be really into getting these consoles so that they can release a patch when the PS5 Pro comes out to drive sales of these games, because both Rebirth and Final Fantasy 16 aren't really meeting their projections on sales at this point, which sucks because both of those games are really good, especially Rebirth. I think it's one of the best games I've played in a long time. So having like enhanced features could be a good way to drive more sales of the game. And I noticed that Final Fantasy 16, a lot of Sony games, they drop to like 30 or 40 bucks pretty quickly, but this generation games are dropping way slower. Final Fantasy 16 is not even a year old at this point, and it's only at 50 bucks, which I guess would be like 40 bucks in the last generation, but it's good to see it holding its price, because that's the big pain point with PlayStation when it comes to this console versus the Nintendo Switch. Switch games drop their price way less frequently, and their games end up making more money in the long run. So like, I love getting cheaper games. There are still options out there like sales or buy two get one free deals or PlayStation Spring sales like the one that's going on right now, but having the games hold their price is honestly a promising sign, because it shows that PlayStation players, unlike Xbox players, are willing to buy their games. And the cool thing about the PS5 Pro is it's not a gimmick. Sony is coming to play here. They're saying, hey, if you're releasing a game after August of 2024, it needs to have some functionality with the PS5 Pro, whether that's better frame rate, whether that's better resolution, ray tracing features, we don't care. We just want to make sure that you are supporting this brand new hardware, because obviously they want people to want to buy it, and having every game support it, that's a great way to get more people outside of the hardcore user base to pick it up. I'm a huge fan of this. I like that Sony's putting a rule in place to begin with just for a safety net. Developers these days, they're releasing games unfinished, they're releasing games with stuttering, they're releasing games with bad graphics, even though apparently we're in the generation with the most powerful console ever. I'm excited to see that this console will hopefully brute force its way past some of these unfinished games that we're getting at launch, and I'm excited to see a lot of games getting patches that didn't run so well on the regular PlayStation 5. Like, I want this thing to feel worth it, and it seems like Sony does too, which is good. They're not just throwing it out there like the PSVR 2, you know? And then finally, with the PS5 Pro, developers are able to take advantage of 1.2 gigabytes more space from your system storage when a game is running. I think what's going on there is because of how fast the PS5's SSD is, they're actually able to allocate some of the free storage for RAM. So like stuff like textures, open world stuff that's gonna like stay in the game world that they need to store and access quickly, but not necessarily as quickly as RAM. They're able to use some of the system storage, and it's good to know that they're gonna get more system storage out of this thing, because because any upgrade over the PS5 immediately makes this thing more worth it. Obviously, these are all tech specs. I wouldn't take any of this with a grain of salt though, because these are the documents that like Sony is sending to developers. It's just cold hard facts. It really gets me excited. It really just makes me believe that yeah, this thing's coming out this year, and because of how it's going to run games and include ray tracing, better frame rates, PSSR, better resolutions, like it feels like this thing is going to be a meaningful upgrade, even though it's just a mid-gen refresh versus something like a brand new PS6. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people don't expect this thing to be announced at the showcase that's coming up in either May or June. I definitely think we're going to get it teased by Hiroki Totoki. It's just like, it makes sense. This thing is not necessarily for the like casual user of the PlayStation 5 who just picked one up last year to take advantage of the backlog. This thing is for the hardcore. If you're watching this channel, you're probably pretty interested in the PS5 Pro, and like announcing it early wouldn't stop you necessarily from buying a PS5 Slim. And I don't think it would stop a casual user from buying a PS5 Slim either, because they don't really care about paying $200 more for extra performance. You know what I'm saying? And Sony really needs something big right now. We've had some third-party exclusives this year, like Rise of the Ronin and Rebirth. They're not really moving the needle with fans in the way that I'm sure Sony would hope. Destiny 2 Into the Light is actually bringing people back to Destiny, which is good for Sony because that game needs to drive cash for them to make this acquisition of Bungie actually worth it. I know some people are like hoping that Bungie is going to fail under Sony and Sony will take over or something like that because they're against live service games. But if a big studio like Bungie is doing bad for Sony, the money that they have to spend to keep that studio open is going to be taken away from other developers. So if someone's under Sony's umbrella, I just want them doing well, whether or not I like the games that they're putting out. Like, I don't really care about Marathon, for example, but I still want it to succeed because it's a Sony made game and it's coming to the PlayStation platform. I'm curious though, now that you know it's real, now that you know the actual specs and what developers are supposed to target with it, are you more, the same, or less excited for the PlayStation 5 Pro? Let me know down in the comments. And then finally, let's talk about this spring sale that Sony's running right now through April 24th. There's some great games on sale. They've been periodically adding more and more games to the sale, but like so many are on sale right now that I don't think they're going to be adding very many more. So I went through, I picked out a few games at a bunch of different price points that I think are worth grabbing. First up is God of War Ragnarok. This one is on sale for the lowest price I've seen it. You can grab it right now for PS5 for $40. This game is so worth it. There's at least 70 or 80 hours worth of good, meaningful content in this game. I'm waiting for it to come to PC to give it another playthrough. I want to play the Valhalla DLC, which was free. They've added even more content, like a new game plus since it came out. If you missed this game, I definitely think this is the one you should grab, bar none, 100%. If you're gonna buy one game, make it this. Horizon Forbidden West is on sale for $30, which is the cheapest I've seen it. I think it's because, you know, when they put it on PS Plus Extra, it totally dropped the sales completely to zero, and they want to make sure they can actually recoup some more money of the budget of this game. Demon's Souls is on PS Plus Extra, but again, if you're someone who likes physical games or you just like owning your games, it's on sale for $30. I went and checked. You can get this one for $30 on disc. I played a lot of it. I didn't beat it. I played it back in the day as well. If you want to see where the Souls series kind of got its start, not kind of got its start, actually got its start, it's worth grabbing this remake because Bluepoint did such a great job with the graphics. Cyberpunk 2077, now that it's like out of its redemption arc, has had way less frequent sales. So if you haven't picked this one up yet and you want a digital copy, it's $30. I will say you probably would have a better shot just grabbing a used PS4 disc copy on eBay because it has a free PS5 upgrade. I was able to get one for $10, but if you just don't want to go through the hassle, I feel like $30 for the digital version is a pretty good deal. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game for my friends over at Gun Media, that's down to $40. It's not that big of a discount, but they've added a lot of content to that game. Like if you're a horror fan, they just added a character that's played by Barbara Crampton, who's like a horror legend. So if you haven't tried this one out, I think it's definitely worth grabbing for $40. The graphics are amazing. And then finally, Fallout 4 is on sale for $5. If you don't have this game, you should definitely pick it up because on April 25th, it's getting its next gen update, which adds in 60 FPS mode and some new Enclave content and just cleans up a lot of the bugs and everything that are still left over in the game almost 10 years later. If you've been watching the show, you probably have the urge to play Fallout and you probably have a PS4 disc copy of Fallout 4, but if by chance you don't, I definitely think it's worth at least grabbing and just trying out for $5. I mean, you can't really beat that price. Those are just a few highlights of my favorite games on sale. sale. There's plenty of other stuff on sale though, so just go on your PlayStation 5, dig through the list, try and see if I missed any deals, and leave them down in the comments for other people who are watching this video. And again, if you like physical games, a lot of storefronts match up with these digital sales, so don't feel like you're missing out if you don't want to pick these up digitally. Just go scan the games that are on sale in the store, then look on Amazon, Best Buy, or Target. You'll probably get a pretty good deal. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Make sure you let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.